today I'm really just working on direction of the tee. Something that I've realized is, let me just switch into fifth gear. Driving a manual car sometimes it just gets a little annoying, especially when traffic's kind of stopping and starting. But my direction of the tee on the golf course is the key to my game. I was thinking about and also looking over some of my recent rounds of golf, and I started to see that my average driving distance is like 245 meters. Average. So it can get up to sometimes 260. On the low end, it's kind of at that 235. So look, it's not the longest hitter. I'm not the shortest hitter. I'm probably right in the middle, maybe just above average. And instead of focusing on speed and distance, I have to try to maximize what I've got right now. And the big part of what I've been trying to do and what I did in my 30-day challenge was gain speed, and I did. I ended up with a swing speed at like 106 miles per hour, and it was a pretty significant jump in 30 days. I went from 102 all the way to 106. That was a combination of strength training, lots of mobility work, and then obviously, getting out and hitting balls. Something I didn't realize was, although my game was improving, when I look back at it now, it's like, okay, if I take an average of most par 4 holes that I play on a longer length course, so a championship style course, and if I'm playing off the blue tees like I am, then a lot of these holes are going to be for a par 4, maybe 380 meters, 400 meters at the most. So yes, would it help if I could hit the ball 260 or 255 on average? Yeah, for sure. Like, that's a no-brainer. But, it's like, okay, well, I've worked on speed and I got a little bit better at that. Now it's trying to like play the game a little smarter. So if I'm taking my driver on majority of these holes, majority of them, it's probably not all of them, but if I'm taking driver on majority of these holes, and I am able to hit a fairly good tee shot, and what a good tee shot for me that I am starting to think about is one that not necessarily always hits the fairway, but it doesn't kind of veer offline by miles. I think missing a fairway is not great, but it's something I've like kind of watched more and more really high level golfers do, is that they're actually still pretty happy with just being in semi rough and being able to still make contact with the ball. Now, granted, it's not the case on every course. I get that. But the whole focus today is direction of the tee. It's like trying to make sure that I don't have a ball that goes, and my miss is generally to the left as a left-handed golfer. So it's push, slice, push, fade. Although I haven't really sliced a ball in a long time. I can't remember the last time that I just like completely lost one. So, which is, I guess that's a good thing, but so it's a little bit of that today, with just being able to then, so going back to the story, or my kind of thinking here is, if I'm able to hit my driver a little bit better, a little bit more consistently within a miss radius of like 20 meters left, 20 meters right, let's say from my point that I'm aiming, a little bit more consistently, I'm going to give myself a chance on a lot of these holes to have something like 110, sometimes even less, 120 maybe, meters into a pin. That's still not under 100 meters, but playing off the blue tees, that's probably going to be about 100, 120 meters, somewhere in that range with my driving length. That's what I'm going to be hitting most of the time. That for me is a gap wedge. Get my gap wedge to about 105 meters on average. And so if I'm able to really get good at that club, along with something a little bit more reliable off the tee, that helps me maximize my average or above average driving distance. That is what I'm trying to simplify the game down to. Now, it's obviously not going to be just gap wedges and not just drivers, but I want to try to simplify it as much as possible. If I could only pick 3 clubs outside of my putter, which is a given, unless I, get really good at my approach shots, it's just not going to, stuff doesn't, knocking it to 3 feet, it's just not an unrealistic thing. It's, or expectation. It's not a realistic expectation, not unrealistic. So I guess getting better with the 56 degree, getting better with the 48 degree, which is my gap wedge. My wedges are all messed up in terms of the gapping between them, but that's a topic for another day. And getting good with my pitching wedge. Now, I've been doing a lot of work with my pitching wedge, just trying to get an understanding of how far I hit this thing. A lot of my distance has changed since doing the 30-day challenge. I increased a lot of my club speed, my contact, and even my compression on my ball. And this is something that I started to learn was, if I'm going to be training and doing this stuff, I have to constantly keep an eye on how my average distances are changing too. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to kind of adapt my game to it. So it's a little bit of just being a little smarter, not being too crazy about, hitting every single club in my bag when I practice, and being really intentional about, okay, this is kind of these are my strengths. How do I maximize some of them, especially when I'm on the course? And then how do I make sure that those strengths, I kind of raise the floor on them a little bit each time I practice. So I get better. My worst shot with each of those clubs gets better each time I practice. And I think if I can do that, I can really start getting closer to being able to shoot level par one day. And I'm definitely getting closer to that now. I feel like my game's not far away from that, but it's funny. I was watching Joe Biden and Donald Trump going at it about their golf game. What's depressing is Donald Trump is a 2-handicap golfer. I mean, unless he's, I've heard some stories that he's teeing it up out of bunkers and stuff like that. I'm not going to speculate, but because I think as soon as you start talking about handicaps, everyone starts to speculate. Oh, you can't swing it like that. Or you're not a 2-handicapper, you're not a 4-handicapper. It's just this weird vibe in golf, like especially around people that are insecure about their own game. As soon as you kind of just get into conversation with them and they ask you like, hey, what kind of handicap or what do you shoot? The first thing that like a lot of golfers, if they're not secure about their game, you generally won't get this with better players. The ones that are kind of just insecure about the game are just going to be like either trying to come back at you with, oh yeah, well, I shot this, and try to compete with you straight away. Oh yeah, well, I had this, or this is what I did that day. And to be honest with you, it's a draining part of golf. And I feel like that's such a, people are competitive, but people also get pretty sort of egotistic with it and just insecure about their games. So if you're one of those people, I'm sorry, but this is just something that kind of is an ick for me when it comes to golf. So at the golf studio, they have these putting greens, and on a day like today, where it's completely like pouring down rain, I have my back to basics putter. So I got that with me today, and I'll be working in a lot of alignment. The second thing that I've started to realize that is so important that doesn't get talked about enough, or maybe it's the wrong way to say it. I have not paid enough attention to in my own game is alignment. So if I'm thinking about ball striking as like hitting the center of the club or close to that as kind of the most important thing, because I don't care what your swing looks like, I don't think. Or it doesn't matter what your swing looks like. If you can find the middle of the club, you're winning. So if that's the most important thing, the second most important thing, or equally as important, is being lined up correctly. To be honest with you, I'd probably put lining up or alignment number one above ball striking. And that might be controversial, but that's the type of importance I'm putting onto it with my game, because it doesn't matter if I make good contact with it if I'm lined up in the wrong direction, right? If my feet and my shoulders don't match and are not lined up to the target, or I'm going to put spin on that ball, that's either going to cause it to go left or right, cause a slice or a fade or a hook. Now you might do that intentionally because you got some physical stuff where you can't actually swing the club a certain way. I get that, but I think it's more an emphasis on alignment in my game, and it's starting to pay off. I'm starting to see the payoffs with all the hard work that I've been doing, and a lot of it has to actually do with just not being able to. For some reason, I had an injury playing cricket, and one of my shoulders is kind of sits a bit lower than the other. So I've done heaps of like mobility, but also just physical work, strengthening of that shoulder, trying to get a really level kind of scapula and shoulder, because when I was lining up, I felt like I had to push one shoulder out and push the other back. So getting that alignment right is another big part of what I'm really focused in on today. And as long as I can get lined up to the ball correctly, I feel like even if you don't hit the middle of the club, I'll find a way. I'll find a way around the course. I'll find a way to get up and down and not get myself in too much trouble. As granted, yes, ball striking is incredibly important. I'm not saying that it's not. Before you guys start to kind of go at me like, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm talking about what these things mean to me in my game. And alignment, I'm starting to prioritize that through putts, through lining up to the ball with any kind of shot, every single shot. So it's that direction off the tee, starts with alignment. And I think that's going to help me maximize a lot of what I can do with my driver and anything off the tee.
A pretty simple concept here. All I'm trying to do is hit maybe 20 balls with the right alignment. I don't want to overdo this. The other thing I'm really monitoring, keeping an eye on, is my tee height. So I do not want a high tee. That's probably perfect, but do have to monitor that a bit, because that's the other thing that's going to add a little bit of kind of change to my swing, is not having control over that ball and that height. Alright. Just the other thing is making sure that I have the ball lined up exactly to where TrackMan is, and then where my shoulders and my feet are going to be lined up. So moving Something like that. It's a good reference. I'm just gonna make some swing here. That's not what I want. So feet, ball, club head, launch into it. Gone left. Line up again. Yeah, I lost that one left. Alright. Focus on getting up on it. Oh, high draw. Ain't really gone anywhere. Could go for a lower tee here. Oh, let's try that. Yeah, that's better. Draw. So I'm kind of heading left at the moment, which is my miss. I do have to get it drawing back a little better. So we get a good turn. Better. See if I can replicate that again. Do that again. Drop kicked it. Yeah, that should be a little better. It's not too bad. I do feel like I'm trying to hit the ball a bit too hard though, so just gonna step down a gear here. Oh, that's... I don't know what happened there. Else? Great. It's my tapping goes. Yeah. If I open up. That's better. You name it? Yeah, no worries.
Set up? What do you got going on there?
Yeah, I film everything I do.
Yeah.
Put it on the YouTube channel, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's not about trying to, build a perfect game, but my enjoyment of the game has definitely gone up because you start to play better. And that's true. You're not going to hate golf if you put the time in to work on your game in a smart way, and then you can actually see some improvement. I'm actually just drove past Sandhurst Golf Club. So next week on Wednesday, keep an eye out for a new vlog coming out. I am doing a 2-part video at Sandhurst Golf Club. The team there have been amazing. Big shout out to Lucas. Thank you for helping me with, or giving me the opportunity to get some content. I'll be playing both courses at Sandhurst and kind of blogging my way through that as well. So keep an eye out for that. I'm actually, you're not seeing it on my face, but I am really excited about that because, Sandhurst is iconic in the southeast region that I live in. And it's a country club. It's just got an amazing community of people around it. And I can't wait to get out there and have some drone footage, try to make a real, my style of course vlog. And I think that's something I'm getting better and better at. I also do have something else to share with you guys. This is probably the most exciting project that I've been waiting to kind of break the news on a little bit. And I feel like I've made some progress that I could start to share some of that with you guys. So